idea of learning contentment, learning to be content, learning to be content. Um, Paul, and he's using this, I'm using him as a case study today because he says, I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. And that one word changes everything for me. Learned. And when we talk about contentment and peace, learned is a very important word because contentment, if we use Paul's example, contentment is not automatic. Contentment is not dispositional. Contentment is not pretending you do not want more. Contentment is discipline. Contentment is learned. Contentment is trained. Contentment comes after we go through conditions. Then we come out of those conditions and those circumstances with an experience and with a testimony. Contentment in this respect is something that he had to grind through, right? He had to learn his way through. And some of us need to realize that we are not weak because we are learning to be content. And we are learning to be satisfied. We're learning to be grateful. We're learning how to manage and navigate through these sort of disruptive and unsettling times. And what Paul shows us here, he shows us three realities that those of us who believe in this hour, we need to recover. And I'm going to come to give it to you quick. So just hang in there. Three realities we need to recover. And here are the three realities that we need to recover as believers. First, the first thing we need to recover is this: spiritual maturity does not cancel desire. Spiritual maturity does not cancel your desire. In his circumstance and in his revelation, rather in his going through, Paul had this revelation. He had this revelation, and he came to this belief that just because he was saved and gifted and called didn't mean he had to stop wrestling with desire, with his wants, right? And we have to realize that as you grow spiritually, and even as you become saved, the Spirit does not turn off our desires, right? There's still a desire for us to want more, right? And it's okay to have that desire to want more. As you mature, you will still have desires, but there is a discipline that we have to develop. We have to learn to be content with what we have. Right? We have to learn to be content with what we have. So if you're saved, if you're gifted, if you're called and you still wrestle, you're okay. You're not fake. You're human. And you are in the process of being formed. You're in the process. It's called spiritual formation. You're in the process of being conformed into the image of Christ. So if you want more, it does not mean, because you have desire, does not mean that there is something deficient or dysfunctional in you. The second thing reality that we need to recover is this: contentment is it's formed in both lack and in abundance. Expose you. Both of them are necessary, right? That our contentment and our character is forged and formed in both periods of lack as well as in seasons of abundance. Just because you're lacking doesn't mean you're any more holy. And just because you are abounding doesn't mean you're any more secure. That there's a lesson for us in both. Both of them can expose our blind spots. Both of them can expose our weaknesses. And the last reality that we need to recover is this one: sufficiency is a discipline. It's not a vibe, not a quote. It is a discipline. Because there are seasons where enough does not feel like a blessing. Sometimes there are seasons when enough feels like a limitation. And the Spirit is teaching us that getting to a place of enough is not settling. He's bringing us to a place where he wants to stabilize us. And some of us really do need a season where we struggle to get to enough so that we will learn to appreciate sufficiency when we have it. Get to enough peace, enough joy, enough money, right? Enough clarity. We need to struggle to get to enough so that we can appreciate sufficiency when we have it. And it's not because our God glorifies struggle, but I truly believe it's because God refuses to let us worship excess as if it is God. Some of us need to learn how to appreciate sufficiency and enough so that we don't worship excess and that we don't always pursue abundance, not being disposed to complain, right? So if you notice that in that definition, contentment actually means this idea of restraint, right? It's restraining yourself from the need to need more, from the necessity of more. That's what contentment is you put a limit on your need for more. You learn to be satisfied with what you have. And I truly believe that this state is a state that we must learn, we must grow to. And God sometimes uses situations like these, states like these, states of instability and disruption. He uses instability to teach us how to be content. So maybe I need to say it this way. You're not being punished because you're still learning enough. You're not being punished because you're still learning enough and learning to appreciate enough. I truly believe what God is saying is that he is training us so that when he increases us, our soul does not collapse under the weight of having more. Because some of us get more money and we actually lose our peace. And three things I want you to ask yourself this week as you go through, as you think about this message, this impartation. Three things I want you to ask yourself is this: what am I calling not enough that God calls sufficient for this season? Look at your life. Take inventory, take stock, audit your life right now, audit your testimonies, audit your narratives, the things you have been speaking, things you've been calling, you've been naming. What have you been naming not enough, but God has called sufficient for this season? What is that thing outside of God alone that you've been chasing to think that if you get it, that's going to give you the security you need? I mean, I'll be okay if I get this job. I'll be okay if I'm able to make this deadline. If I have a certain amount of money over my expenses, after expenses pay. If I have this person in my life, what have you been chasing that you think is going to make you secure besides God? So if I don't get it, will I be okay with God alone? So you got to think about what you're chasing. What supplement do you think you need besides God to be secure, to be healthy, to be whole? And if God were to give you more today, would it deepen your stewardship? Would you operate in faith with it, hoping to bring pleasure to God? Or would it expose your idols, the things that you truly worship, you truly appreciate more than God? That God, he becomes more than enough when you recognize that he is the source and the center of your enough.